It looks like our attendee list is continuing to grow. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, Jennifer.
Kevin. Great. We're just wait just a few more seconds for some more folks to join, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome, Mike and Joyce from Oak Park.
Beth, another Beth from Pleasanton. Nice. South Pasadena. Oh, that's got to be Chris from Old Agora. Yay.
Yay, look at Upland, Diamond Bar. Got people right from Liberty Canyon, right. Hawaii. All right. LA.
Awesome.
George Coleman. Hello, George and Kathy.
All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started, but hello, everybody. And again, welcome to the Wallis Annenberg Wildlife Crossing Virtual Open House. We have a lot of really exciting items on today's agenda for the program today, but just some acknowledgements before we get started. We'd really like to thank everyone for attending this evening, including the City of Agora Hills, the office of Senator Henry Stern's office, and Supervisor Sheila Kuehl's office, and the California Department of Fish and Wildlife staff. And of course, all of you. I also want to give a shout out to Lauren Gill and Kate Ekman on the National Wildlife Federation team who are helping on the back end of this event today, ensuring that we're getting to your guys' questions and any comments you may have in the chat. I just want to also begin this program with a land acknowledgement. The Wallis Annenberg Wildlife Crossing is located on the homelands of the Chumash. We celebrate, honor, and respect the history and people of this land. And we extend our gratitude for the wisdom and understanding they have given us in creating the wildlife crossing. Some logistics before we get started. Everybody feel free to type your questions into the Q&A part of this meeting. You guys can do the questions in the chat. It's just harder for us to maintain throughout the program. So please try to put those questions into the Q&A box. Feel free to interact with each other respectfully through the comments section and submit your questions to the panel at any time. And we're going to get to those questions during the Q&A portion of this meeting towards the end. Today's program is as follows. We're going to kick it off with some introductions so you can all meet some of the team working on the project. We're then going to be sharing with you an update on the Save LA Cougars campaign and community engagement efforts as a whole. And after that, we're going to move into our update portion of the meeting that will provide an overview on project construction as it stands today. Following the presentation, again, we're going to move into the Q&A portion of this open house. So I'll go ahead and kick us off with introductions, and then I'll hand it over to Beth to facilitate introductions with the panelists. But for those of you who don't know me, my name is Karina Domingo, and I'm the Urban Wildlife Program Manager with the National Wildlife Federation California. I'm a wildlife biologist, and on the Save LA Cougars team, I wear a lot of different hats, but for the purpose of this meeting, I work a lot with local communities here in the Los Angeles area on community engagement and coexistence programming. So if you live or recreate or work near the crossing site, then you likely already know me. And if you don't, then you'll definitely be seeing more of my face in the future. And with that, I'll kick it over to Beth, and we're gonna run through our list of introductions with all our awesome panelists.
Thank you, Karina, and thanks everybody for being here. It's just such an exciting time
with the crossing, and we'll get into where we're at. But I'm Beth Pratt. You know, my title, I just say, is Cougar Lady. It's just easier, but it's just been a pleasure working with all the partners, many of who you're going to meet here as we are now underway. You know, I mean, I remember our first open houses where this was still a dream, and here we are. So it's exciting to be here. The panelists are by no means the only partners working on this. We have so many of you in the audience, like Senator Fran Pavley and Senator Stern's office, and I could go down the list. But these are at least representatives from some of the core agencies and partners like the National Wildlife Federation and the others you'll hear from who have brought this to fruition. So let me pass it off to Rory, who I think is next.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Rory Skay with the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy and Mountains Recreation and Conservation Authority, MRCA. And this has been a decades-long project for the Conservancy. We weren't conceptualizing a bridge back then, but that's what has evolved. And we are the land acquisition partner. We own the property on both sides of the crossing, and we're a principal partner with Caltrans.
Great. Thanks, Rory. Next up is Robert Rock from Living Habitats.
Hi, yes, Robert Rock, Living Habitats. We are a landscape architecture and ecology practice. We've been leading the design effort on the wildlife crossing and collaborating directly with Caltrans on the final engineering drawings for the project, building off of the strong platform that all the rest of the project partners have been working on for decades. And the representation of the investment in time across the timeline of this project is quite remarkable, as I'm sure you'll hear from the other panelists that are part of this, but proud to be here with all of you today and looking forward to the questions.
Thank you, Robert. Next up, I'm going to add to your title, Clark, which is architect, but poetic architect.
I love the way Clark frames up some of the poetry around what we're doing at Liberty Canyon. So Clark, you're next.
Hi, Clark Stevens. Thanks, Beth. Resource Conservation District of the Santa Monica Mountains. I'm an architect and the executive there. And the RCD partnered with everyone towards the beginning of this particular project to help with early phases of planning and design, including the not that recently completed underpass component, which is part of the passage area that complements the overpass. And happy to be here again with things underway.
Thanks, Clark. Next up is Seth Riley, Mountain Lions.
And lots of research. We wouldn't know we needed a crossing if it wasn't for Seth and Jeff and the National Park Service research. So go for it, Seth.
Thanks, Beth. Yeah, so I'm Seth Riley with the National Park Service. I'm the branch chief for wildlife at Santa Monica Mountains National Recreation Area. And then I'm also adjunct in ecology and evolutionary biology at UCLA. And we've been studying the ecology and conservation of wildlife for over 25 years now. And actually a lot of that work started right in the area of the crossing with bobcats and coyotes. And then we've been studying mountain lions, as Beth was mentioning, for the last 20 years. And all of our work is focused on understanding how are wildlife doing in an urban and fragmented landscape. And one of the critical things we've been interested in and concerned about is connectivity. And obviously the crossing is just such a critical part of that. We're so excited to be involved in actually something happening that comes from the research, as Beth mentioned.
Thanks, Seth. And then Caltrans, we have Sheik, our fearless leader
who is managing the project. Sheik, where are you?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. This is Sheik Minuddin. I'm the project manager from Caltrans. Since Caltrans is actually doing the design and construction of this project, and I'm basically managing this project with the extraordinary group of people who is working on this project as a colleague.
Thanks, Sheik. And then some of you might recognize Michael.
If you signed up for the Caltrans weekly updates, he prepares those. So Michael.
Thank you, Beth. It's great to be here. I'm thrilled to be working on this project. I work for Caltrans as a public information officer. My job is to provide information to the public, to keep them informed of what is happening and what to expect. So I produce updates for the community. If anybody's interested in any information or signing up for the updates, please get in touch with me and we will make that happen. So I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. And then a new partner, the construction contractor that was selected by competitive bid by Caltrans, who is out there working. Dave, would you like to introduce yourself? CA Rasmussen.
Yeah, hi, I'm Dave Du Bois with CA Rasmussen. We're very excited. CA Rasmussen is. We're a local contractor. Many of the employees, past, present, and probably future, are from the community. So we're all very excited and kind of have a vested interest in seeing this project come through. And we're looking forward to providing a project that we can all be proud of and something that will serve a function for the community for years to come.
Thank you, Dave. And again, welcome aboard.
And then another partner, and we're going to bring on Mayor Deborah Klein-Lopez. The city of Agora Hills, of course, is where the crossing is located. And it's just been great working with you, Mayor Lopez, and Supervisor Weber, who's been a part of it, and also the whole Public Works team and Nate. Thanks for all being here. But Mayor Lopez would say a few words and welcome, and please introduce your team.
Thank you. Absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Deborah Klein-Lopez. I am the mayor of the city of Agora Hills and also an associate director of the Resource Conservation District of the Santa Monica Mountains with Clark Stevens, who you just met. I would like to introduce the Agora Hills team that's on the call. We've got our city manager, Nathan Hamburger, our public works director, Jessica Forte, our senior civil engineer, Charmaine Yambao, and our media analyst, Erica Diaz. We want to extend a hearty welcome to all of you virtually to our beautiful town where nature has dictated that this is the place where the Wallis Annenberg Wildlife Crossing needs to be. And our city was founded actually exactly 40 years ago on the principles of preserving and protecting open space and our native habitat. And that includes everything from mountain lions to deer and coyote and birds and flowers and so much more. And the bridge cannot come too soon. In June, we lost our 7th adult mountain lion, and we found out she was pregnant with 4 kittens. You do the math, and that's 11 beautiful cats that could be alive today if they had had access to the crossing. So as a city, we are just so proud to work with the partners that you just met to create the largest crossing in the world. And we are going to be a model for future generations and for future projects. So we just want you to know that our team is here. We are a resource for all of you, and don't hesitate to reach out. And just once again, welcome to Agora Hills virtually.
Thank you so much, Mayor Lopez. I forgot one Caltrans person, Sam.
Couldn't do it without Sam, our construction person. Where is he?
I'm here. My name is Sam Tutunchian. I'm the resident engineer for Caltrans, and I work very closely with Rasmussen to administrate the construction contract. Happy to be here.
Thank you, Sam. All right, so you've met some of the team members, and a lot of those
I'll be fielding questions to whoever is most appropriate to answer it. You certainly don't want me answering how things are engineered because I have no clue. But I'm going to give a kind of a short update, and then we'll go to Caltrans right after me. And again, please put, if you can, your questions in the Q&A. We're going to try to get to all of them if we can, or we will follow up via email if we can't. And we will save time at the end for that. So if I can figure out the sharing screen thing, I will do that. Okay, not working. Hopefully it's working.
It looks great.
Okay, great. Here we go. Well, Karina already did the land acknowledgement, but you can't do too many. We are so privileged to have Alan Salazar also on as an official member of our design and engagement team as well. But we always want to acknowledge who, that the Chumash are core to this effort in honoring their cultural, not just historical legacy, but their relationship to wildlife and what they bring to this incredible project. And we cannot thank them enough for that. I also just like to put the partner, again, this takes a village, and it's just so exciting. Seth and I were at some other meeting, like giddy about, my God, this is really happening. And I'm sure a lot of you who are in the audience who have been a part of this, but it does take a village, and these logos represent some of the core partners who really made this happen, day in and day out in their respective roles, really working towards this. But it's also you. We would not have this project without the public. We would not have this project without all of you. And some of you may remember that first rally in 2014 where 400 people showed up, and we were told we were crazy. We were told it would never happen. And here we are at groundbreaking. This is, a lot of you were able to come to this, and it was just such an amazing, hopeful day. And I don't know, some of you may have seen this, but I thought it was worth playing real quick, the highlights from groundbreaking.
Today, we begin to reconnect the lands and living creatures that should never have been fractured in the first place. We begin to make the lands whole again for all.
Welcome to the groundbreaking for the Wallis Annenberg Wildlife Crossing! Woohoo!
So what a gift personally this is for me to be here with a small part of it, working with local colleagues in the state senate and assembly, working with local officials and federal officials. Just put up this program and we'll complete the job within another $10 million, by the way. I do want to every single one of you, all the remarkable leaders that help advance this cause, inspire young people, and inspire examples like this all across the rest of the country and the rest of the world.
Sorry, you heard some of my dog in the background too, but we're having bears in the yard. It's kind of fun. Anyway, what a hopeful day. For those of you who are able to join us, it was just such an amazing day. You can watch the whole groundbreaking ceremony, although it is an hour and a half on our website. So you get to the next slide. I did want to give some construction updates, but I thought Michael's going to cover some of that. But I thought I'd start with, I love this video. One of the first delays was, we did have a little delay. It wasn't very long, but one of the first delays, some of you may guess, on the project was this.
We're here on the construction site for the world's largest wildlife crossing. Construction was already supposed to have begun, but it hasn't. So we're here to find out what has caused the first delay for this $90 million crossing.
The first delay is due to a pair of acorn woodpeckers nesting within a Verizon wireless utility pole. It's just kind of ironic that we have to protect this nest, but we're putting this project on hold. That's also supposed to help wildlife connectivity. It's funny that it's a utility pole versus like a tree also, so.
There is something very fitting that, you know, the woodpeckers, it was wildlife that caused, you know, one of the first delays. And let me skip ahead there. But here we are. This vision that we have realized is underway. I did want to just, before I get to the construction updates and turn it over to Michael, we do get a lot of questions about the campaign. So right now, and when we get to the construction phases, it becomes clearer. We are at $98 million and almost completed our campaign. We have almost all of Caltrans construction costs and everything covered. However, as I'll get to, we haven't designed out, and the bid for stage 2 hasn't come in. So we are building in some contingency. That's why we still have a little more to go. And there's also other things we need to raise money for the project that are not Caltrans costs, such as the plant nursery, the habitat stewardship, the mountain lion research. There's a lot of other things built into what we needed to do for this project outside of Caltrans. So we do get questions. So again, still have a little ways to go, but boy, we're almost there. It's really been amazing. And thanks to all of you, like the Wallis Annenberg and the Annenberg Foundation, and also the state of California and others who really stepped up to this. I also wanted to talk a little bit about some of the outreach that we're doing and that you can participate. Schools, we have school programs that are open to anybody, especially around P22 Day. And one of the things we are doing is some school mural programs. And I thought I'd show you one. This is at Ladera Stars Academy that we just put in. It is very important to us. It's not just about building the crossing, but how community and schools can engage and use this as teaching and learning moments, because this is a scientific landmark as well. That will be studied and is being studied for years to come. So these are some things you can contact us about, school programs and things we can do for schools in your community. Let's see. And also just wanted to give a plug, Karina probably will too, P22 weeks coming up. It's our 7th annual, so hope you will be there along with Wildlife to Watts. Please come down for that as well. These are 2 big events with a lot of stuff going on in between. On to construction to conclude. If you haven't checked out, you don't have to drive by the site. You can go on to this new wildlife live construction camera we have. If you just go to the Save LA Cougar site and scroll down a little bit, there'll be a link there that you can then save, and you can tune in and look at what is underway for construction. This camera will also be doing a time lapse over the entire construction sequence. So we'll have that when we end as well. And here's a close-up from today. So again, you can see some of what Rasmussen is doing to prep for the upcoming work. Real quickly, where we're at. Obviously, we broke ground on April 22nd, and that was a true break ground date, but a lot of staging had to go behind the scenes. We had to relocate some utilities. One of the things this project is doing is undergrounding the utility poles, which is great for fire. You know, those electrical transmission lines will be underground. That had to happen first. So now Rasmussen's there and is deploying some of the major stuff. That is only for the 101 section over, over the 101. Stage 2, which will be over Agora Road, we are currently finalizing that design, and then the bid will go out later, and construction on that will likely begin in 2024. It's one project, but for logistical reasons and because we need to first do those utility poles, we need to split them up for those reasons. But the wildlife crossing itself is sort of one project. I just wanted to address some questions that we get a lot, and I thought would just, when will construction take place? Most of it's going to take place at night, but there will be some activity during the day. Will a full closure of the 101 freeway be needed? Caltrans is not anticipating needing any full freeway closure, at least at this point. There might be some directional closures between 12 a.m. and 5 a.m. And during that time, traffic would be detoured on Agora Road. Same thing, would any area roads like Agora Road or Liberty Canyon Road be closed during construction? At this time, it is not anticipated. This is a big project, things can change, but that's the information right now that those. We also get asked a lot about noise and pollution and impacts from the construction in the surrounding communities. At this point, based on the construction site and that you already, the 101 freeway is already a pretty noisy thing. Caltrans estimates that those impacts will be negligible given where construction siting. But of course, we're very sensitive to that. We'll keep you posted if something is anticipated to change on that. And then I'm going to turn it over to Michael. While he's talking, I'm just going to flash through some construction photos of what it looks like right now and some of the things that are queuing up. But Michael, take it away.
Thank you, Beth. And again, Caltrans is extremely proud and honored to be working on such a significant, even unique project. And we're committed to doing a first-rate job. What you're looking at right now is the high visibility fencing to identify sensitive ecological areas. After the initial installation of the fencing, it was redone in order to make it easier for animals to cross through the fencing. Utility relocation was one of the first things that had to be done after we entered the construction phase. There are multiple utility lines, including electrical, cable, telecommunications lines that had to be relocated, and the crews agreed to work, I should say, all of the parties involved agreed to work on an accelerated schedule to complete the utility relocation ahead of schedule. And that was a major achievement so that the rest of the work could then move forward. One of the things that has happened is test panels. Crews have poured several panels of concrete, colored concrete that will be used in this bridge, and these test panels are being exposed to the sun and weather in conditions similar to the actual bridge in order to assure that as the concrete cures, the color will match the specifications for this crossing. That's going on out of sight, but it's important. Survey work has been done during this part of the construction process already, not only biological surveys to monitor and assess plant and animal life and the environment, but also the perhaps more typical or better known highway construction surveying with the crews who are taking measurements to assure the vertical and horizontal controls for the highway construction project. Crews have placed construction area signs and portable changeable message signs to alert drivers to changed traffic conditions, closed shoulders, lowered speed limit. Crews realigned lanes in order to create space for the crews to work. And some of the photos you saw were placing K-rail or portable concrete barriers, also known as Jersey walls in some places. And these separate the traffic lanes from the work area. And once the K-rail was put in place, crews were able to proceed to removal of the guardrails, those metal beams along the roadway. And one of the activities that will be happening as part of the normal construction process is crews will be using saws to cut the pavement. Those pavement sections will be removed and transported away. Some of the upcoming construction activity that you can look forward to include crews will be installing temporary lighting on the southbound 101 Liberty Canyon off-ramp. Crews will be cutting and removing vegetation on the slope alongside southbound 101 and also on the shoulder of the freeway. Crews are installing devices to prevent stormwater runoff from the construction site for quality purposes. And crews will be installing shoring soon along southbound 101. To do this, they're going to be excavating. There will be trucks hauling soil off the site, and it'll be properly disposed. And in this coming week, we're anticipating a little bit more truck traffic on Agora Road as some of the soil excavation is taking place. So that's kind of a picture of what's happening. It is still very early in the process, but we're very pleased at the great team we've got working here with all of these great folks. So for now, I think I'm going to hand it over to Karina, who I think is going to talk about some more of our public outreach efforts.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. Let me just have 1 minute to make sure I'm sharing my screen and that I can see you all after doing that. Are you all seeing the presentation correctly? Fantastic. Awesome. Well, I just, for everybody here today, continue to add your questions into the Q&A portion of this meeting. We'll absolutely get to those in just a few minutes. I have a short presentation where I'm going to be sharing with you all some information regarding our brand new docent program. And at the end of this presentation, I'll share some information on how you guys can get updates on the program, as well as the construction updates Michael was talking about and campaign updates just in general. So let's go ahead and get started. As you guys know, you have met a lot of the partners here today. The Wallis Annenberg Wildlife Crossing is a public-private partnership, and the core partner team includes Caltrans, the National Park Service, Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy, MRCA, the Resource Conservation District of the Santa Monica Mountains, and of course, the National Wildlife Federation. And with support from the National Wildlife Federation, the Cougar Conservancy has created the first ever docent program for the Wallis Annenberg Wildlife Crossing. The Cougar Conservancy is a Los Angeles-based nonprofit with a mission to reduce human-wildlife conflict in the area. So here is a snapshot of some of the team, Kelly and Kelsey, who are working hard at developing this brand new docent program for the crossing. The goal of the program is to bridge connections between the Santa Monica Mountain community members and visitors by informing, engaging, and empowering them with practical cougar coexistence knowledge and a deep understanding of the need for this wildlife crossing and more like it across the globe. The docent program will provide a multifaceted approach to community engagement to achieve our program goals, which are to inform the community. So we want to communicate information regarding the crossing, communicate factual information on human-wildlife interactions in relation to the crossing. In addition, we're trying to communicate information regarding just general cougar coexistence and other wildlife in the area as well. We also want to highlight the importance of wildlife-friendly infrastructure, not just this project, but projects throughout California and throughout the world. And of course, to address any misconceptions regarding local wildlife and the wildlife crossing in general. As part of our engagement goals, we really just want to foster a connection between the community and their surrounding natural spaces. We also want to keep the community updated on the crossing process and construction, and also local wildlife related issues, which National Park Service does a great job communicating about through their press releases that they put out. Thirdly, our docent program goals are to empower the local community, to build people's confidence in wildlife coexistence skills like trail safety and home safety measures and relevant wildlife issues just in general. We also want to provide opportunities for the community to actually get involved in this work, whether it be them becoming a docent themselves or attending these tours as participants, and having those individuals disseminate information that's helpful to their own communities as well. We also want to make sure to include and amplify historically excluded voices as part of the program. Here you see Mark Turner, the docent in the photo here. Mark was deeply moved with the loss of P89 on the 101 in Woodland Hills near his home this year. And it really hit him hard, this loss that happened right near his house. And this inspired him to take action and be part of the docent program. The docent program, though, fits within this much larger community engagement program initiative that's supported by the Save LA Cougars campaign. If you attended the last open house, you were briefly made aware of this collaboration, but for those of you who weren't in the last open house, we informed everybody that over the last about year and a half, the Cougar Conservancy has been collaborating with the National Wildlife Federation, National Park Service, California Department of Fish and Wildlife, to produce one of the most extensive commonly asked questions documents for cougar coexistence. And the goal of this document is really to serve as an educational resource for the project, its partners, everybody on this call here, and all the people in the area who have questions about cohabitating with cougars in California and beyond. This informed the first specialty course that the docents can take. And this document also serves as a script to a brand new video series, which we're actually producing next week. And these questions and answered will be added to our brand new Wallis Annenberg Wildlife Crossing website that will launch in the coming weeks. Just want a special thanks to our partners for their collaboration on this. It really takes a village, and we couldn't have done it without your guys' help. It answers some of the questions like the one you see on the screen. How do we know cougars and other wildlife will use the crossing? Will the wildlife crossing attract more cougars to the area? These are common questions that we get, and I just want to emphasize that this is going to be a resource for everyone on this call, from city staff to neighbors sharing information on Nextdoor. A little bit about the docent program if you're interested in joining. Docents are asked to make a one-year commitment at a minimum, and to reap the benefits of growth opportunities and skill development, we do encourage a 3-year commitment, but it's not mandatory. They go through an orientation, a formal training, and in addition, docents also learn age-appropriate tour techniques and public speaking skills in a variety of learning styles. A common concern with the construction of this crossing is the formation of curious and excited crowds at the crossing site. And so one solution to help alleviate crowding was to actually provide these guided hikes to the public. The goal of this program is to take people on those guided hikes on accessible public trails to give them an opportunity to experience the project up close and learn about the crossing and address some of their common questions. In addition to the docent tours, the crossing will also be able to be seen from the recreational trails in the area, and a viewing platform will be built to facilitate optimal viewing in the future as well. Part 1 is a classroom training. Part 2, part 1, we go over our docent manual and have in-depth conversations about the content in the docent manual. And then part 2 is an on-site training where our future docents get to tour the site, and we visit both sides, the north and the south end, which allows trainees the opportunity to really envision what a tour will look like. We also provide demonstrations that they'll actually replicate during their own tours. And so these trainings last anywhere between 6 to 7 hours, and every docent trainee receives a docent training kit. Here's a timeline of the project so far, but just want to highlight that we're aiming to open up the public tours by December of 2022. So that's pretty exciting. So to sign up for the docent program, if you're interested in becoming a volunteer docent, you can visit the webpage here on the screen. And for those of you who are interested in perhaps signing up for one of the public tours, you'll be able to do so on this website as we get closer to the end of year. And then just kind of switching gears here on staying connected in general, about the wildlife crossing. There are a few ways that everybody on this call can do that. And so to sign up for the Caltrans weekly construction advisories that Michael was talking about earlier, you can email him at his address that you see here on the screen. These are going to be updates on project construction and impacts like lane and ramp closures and detours. And so if you want that detailed construction information, this is the list that you want to get on for those timely updates regarding construction. But if you want to casually follow the project and construction updates, I highly suggest you like the Wallis Annenberg Wildlife Crossing Facebook page. This is going to be that page that we post upcoming events like these open houses, in addition also to construction updates that Michael provides online as well. We do cross post those to that platform. And of course, if you want to sign up for the National Wildlife Federation's Save LA Cougars newsletter, you can do so at savelacougars.org. That concludes the end of my presentation, and just kicking it back over to Beth.
Thanks, Karina. The docent program we're really excited about, but if that's too much of a time commitment, we also have our regular volunteer program, which you can email Karina about, which is mainly focused on events and of course the upcoming P22 day. So we also have our regular volunteer program if you want to get involved. And to Karina, we will be launching the Save LA Cougar site has been primarily focused on the fundraising and obviously the, geared towards that. The new Wallis Annenberg site, which again, will be launching around P22 day, will be a partner site that really just focuses on education around the crossing itself. Won't be in P22's voice, which it will be the lesser for it. But on the other hand, it's going to be more just the facts. So look for that site as well to stay engaged on the crossing itself. But now we're time for questions. So please put them in the Q&A if you can. I'll try to monitor the chat too. But the first one, and I think I'm going to pass this to Robert. Eventually be time to add plants to the crossing. How will the plants be chosen? So Robert, do you also just want to give a brief update? One of the more exciting things to me about this crossing, and I always like to affirm, we are building an ecosystem, not just an animal conveyance. The goal of this project is to make the ecosystem whole and connected for resiliency for all flora and fauna of the Santa Monica Mountains. So part of what we're doing is basically building that from the ground up with the native vegetation. And we started collecting mushrooms like 2 years ago. And so there is now a native plant nursery where this will be propagated. So Robert, do you want to give an update on that? And then if you could answer the question on how these plants will be or are already chosen.
Sure. I'm just afraid that I'll talk and take up the rest of the 20 minutes that we've got.
This has to be a brief answer.
Yeah, it's a fabulous question. The benefit of working on this project, aside from the fabulous design team that we have and the staff members that we have that are experts on the horticultural front within our own office, is that we have the benefit of working with the National Park Service, with the Resource Conservation District, with MRCA, and with Caltrans, and working with all of the biologists and the people who have a intimate knowledge of the native plant community of the area. And one of the strategic decisions that was made early on was to develop this project nursery, where we will be growing the plants for the project. The nursery is under the direction of a fabulous individual who's been doing an incredible job of working to collect seed locally in the project area. Her name is Catherine. She's working as a member of the SAMO Fund. And she's been working to collect seed. At this point, we have all of the seed collected for what we'll be growing in the nursery for the stage 1 plants. And we've been working on continuing to build that seed stock for stage two as well. The important piece of this to us is that from that standpoint of the kind of ecological grounding of the project, that the seed selection and the plant selection is endemic of this location, so that we're preserving the local genetics and propelling that forward as part of the restoration of this area.
Thank you, Robert. It's really fascinating. And we do anticipate opening up tours at some point of the nursery as well. So once that, gets underway enough, and also volunteer opportunities, but again, not quite there yet. The
The next question, I'm going to throw this to both Seth, this is, and also to Clark Stevens. There's kind of a two-part here. Tom is asking about the status of the Rim of the Valley proposal, and maybe Seth, if you can take that. And then Clark is, Stevens might be able to comment on how that really fits in with the greater proposal. So Seth and Clark, if you guys want to speak to this.
Yeah, and actually, I don't know. I guess we can't. Jody might know better than me, actually, or other.
Or I can chime in.
Or
yeah,
Rory,
ahead,
okay, Rory,
if
you go
want,
for it.
Rory. I mean, my understanding is that it's. Well, go ahead, Rory.
Yeah, it is. It's still in Congress, the federal Rim of the Valley legislation that I think it is anticipated to finally get finalized, but we don't have a date yet. But remember that the Rim of the Valley Trail Corridor has been under the Conservancy's jurisdiction since the 1980s. And clearly the bridge is a piece of what we've all been working for, was habitat connectivity from the Santa Monica Mountains, the Simi Hills, the Santa Susanas, and into Angeles and Los Padres National Forests. So the federal Rim of the Valley legislation, we're really looking forward to that being finalized, and it will be an adjunct to all the existing statutory authority that we have in the Rim of the Valley.
Yeah, my understanding, I believe that it's passed the House and that it's still in the Senate, I think, legislatively. But yeah, as Rory said, I mean, that's the thing. This 101 is a huge barrier, but it's the connectivity is important throughout the region, and ultimately we're trying to connect the Santa Monica, as Rory said, all the way to Los Padres National Forest, and so all of those areas are critical, and understanding and preserving connectivity across 101, but also across 118 and also across 126, and even to other areas like to the east, across 5, like all of that is really important.
Right. I was just going to add that for those that aren't familiar, as Rory mentioned, the concept of the Rim of the Valley has been around since the 1980s, but it's basically, we think of the San Fernando Valley as a bowl. The rim of the bowl are those mountain ranges from the Santa Monicas up through the Simi Hills and across Santa Susanas, and even down along the Verdugo Hills in that area. And so the rim of the bowl has chips in it. You can't walk the rim as wildlife, and that's the linkage zone. So the Rim of the Valley concept became a kind of federal area defined, hopefully soon by statute for special considerations and opportunities. But before that, it was a spatial concept, and it had to do with connectivity back before we were really talking about it as connectivity even. And so yeah, we're trying to get across the chips, the 5, the 101 are breaks in that bowl.
I told you Clark was poetic.
Just visual.
Visual, yeah. The next one are for Caltrans. I'll let you decide who.
This is from Stacy. In regard to the on and off ramps, will we be getting dated and timed flag signs on closures in the upcoming months? Similar signs are being used north of us for ramp maintenance, and wondering if we in Liberty Canyon will be given the same courtesy.
Sam, you wanna take that question, or you want me to?
Go ahead, Sheikh.
Okay, yeah, basically for all the ramp closures and what have you, we're gonna have proper signages that is in the specs. I'm not really sure exactly what you mean by time flag signs and closures, but basically whenever we're gonna have the closures, we're gonna follow all the process and all the signing packages that comes with it, so that people can know ahead of time or when that closure is gonna start, how long it's gonna be there, and that sort of thing. And Sam, you have more to add? Go ahead.
No, I echo your points, and actually I'd like to also offer Michael Como the opportunity to kind of talk about the advance notification to the public before closures.
Yeah, the weekly email update that Karina referred to is one of our primary ways of communicating ramp closures, particularly at this time. But there are 2 other ways that people might want to tune in for information about ramp closures. We are very active on Twitter in posting the information and updated information on Twitter. In addition, we send out news releases to local media, and it's a really wide distribution of information to the media, but as you might understand, it's chiefly media in this area, the local newspapers as well as radio, that tend to pick up on these announcements that we send out. So those are some of the ways. If you have specific questions about that, please feel free to reach out to me by email, and I will follow up with you directly to try to give a better understanding or a more complete picture of what we can do. Thank you.
I think Stacy did make a comment that not
Everybody goes online. So I think that's where the physical signage, when possible. I think obviously sometimes the closures are not as, predictable as, like, we're not closing these ramps for 3 months like some projects. So that's where sometimes they pop up, but I think that is something to be cognizant of, that not everybody's online. We have a question here. Say, has there been any collaborations with CHP on getting traffic control on the Liberty Canyon ramps? And I'm guessing that is when there's closures or heavy traffic. Anybody want to take that one? Would that be Caltrans again?
Yes, we're going to have CHP, not just traffic control for the ramps. During the closure, CHP will be actually controlling traffic through Agora. So CHP will be in charge for traffic control.
Thank you, Sheik. Glenda is asking, and
I'll let Robert take this, although I could probably answer too. What resource is going to be available to Liberty Canyon residents to see what the tunnel will look like from Agora Road? Glad to hear the design work will be underway soon. So I'll just start that, Glenda. Yeah, the design work is underway. We will be releasing, as we did with the crossing and some of the visualizations I used in my presentation. We will be releasing visualizations, but we don't want to be premature in that. But we are going to be working on that. And Robert, if you just want to comment as well.
Yeah, I think you covered it. Covered it well. I mean, it's part of the design process right now, and as that is becoming more refined through our dialogue with the project partnership team here and with the city of Agora Hills, that will be something that we release more broadly. But at this time, we're not quite at that point yet to share it, even though we're incredibly excited about the prospect and the direction that we're going.
Thank you, Robert. Okay, next one, either Caltrans or
Sierra or Dave with Rasmussen. How much excavation will be required of the hillside on the north side of the 101?
Okay, Sam and Dave, you guys want to take that?
Sure, I'll jump in. I can only speak for the portion of the contract that we have. We expect in the neighborhood of 4,000 to 5,000 yards to come off the slope just to facilitate construction of the footing and abutment wall for the bridge. Not for us, that's not a lot of dirt. For some, it might seem like, but it's not a huge amount.
Sam, did you want to add anything or?
Yeah, so is that on? I'm just wondering, Dave, is that just on the north side, or is that on both sides?
No, I thought that that was specifically for the north side.
Just the north side, okay.
It's kind of a different story.
Yeah.
Great. Aleve has a question that I can answer.
Is there a technology or method to direct wildlife, especially our apex predators, to this amazing crossing? That is a really good question. And what we're benefiting from is decades of wildlife crossing science, and some folks like Tony Clevenger, who worked on wildlife crossings for 30 years all over the world, is on our team that has helped with Caltrans and Robert's team. So we have lots of good data on how to do this. First of all, I would just say for this crossing, unlike a lot of ones that are out in the middle of nowhere, if you look on a map, and I could throw one up, it is a natural funnel. The green space narrows to, as Clark has always pointed out, the last 1,600 feet of hope, for these wildlife, where it narrows down to that's where protected space right at Liberty Canyon on both sides of the freeway. And as the National Park Service study has shown, mountain lions and other wildlife are already trying and have been funneled to cross here, but what they end up doing is turning around. The wildlife don't want to cross roads, so they're the best teachers themselves. But we do have design ways that we lead them to the crossing. First of all is what we call exclusionary fencing. So we cut off their options. That is, something that wildlife crossing science is pretty definitive about. You actually cut off their other options so that they have to get to the crossing, along with vegetative cues and landscaping. One of the tricky parts about the Liberty Canyon or the Wallis Annenberg crossing is, we didn't have a lot of options to where to put it. And the slope here is really tricky, which impacted the complexity of the design. We want that slope to be inviting to wildlife on both sides. So these are some design techniques and some things that we do to help get the wildlife there. But having now seen wildlife crossings and studied them across the country, my money is on the wildlife are going to use this almost immediately. I visited crossings that literally the next day the wildlife were using it. And these were not as funneled like Liberty Canyon. Up in Washington State, there were some crossings, a series of crossings being built, and the deer started trying to use it before they were finished. So, the wildlife themselves are the best. And there's my dogs, probably a bear. Hold on one second. Other question, how much excavation on the south side?
Okay, so this is kind of a tricky one. So there's some excavation to be done to facilitate construction of a what we call a geogrid reinforced earth embankment to support the bridge. So there's really not removal of a significant amount of material over there. Whatever gets taken out is going to be replaced. So we're going to take out some of the material that's there and then replace it with some structural components so that we can construct a steeper slope to support the bridge abutment. Exact quantities, I'm not certain on the exact quantities, but it's more than on the north side, maybe double. But again, it will be put back, so there won't be any net loss of soil over there.
Sorry for my dogs. We actually have a bear that is hanging out in my yard, and that's why they're so agitated tonight. So we saw some big bear poop today. So it is.
Beth, one of my staff members is on the call as well, and she just figured that your dogs are just incredibly excited about the project.
Oh yes, especially exactly. I'm very interested in the plant nursery. This is from Beth. Will there be an online resource for us to follow? Absolutely. Again, that'll be part of the new Wildlife Crossing website. You can also, again, on Facebook, you can follow. We've already done some posts along with, this is a collaborative effort. MRCA, the Park Service, it's on MRCA land. The Park Service is providing staffing, National Wildlife Federation funding. So we will be posting a lot more about the plant nursery and how you can get involved. Let's see. Will the excavation affect the land between the bridge and Liberty Canyon Road? Anybody want to take that one? And I'm assuming you're meaning, let's see, the bridge.
I think, Beth, that's probably about
Clark.
as you come off the crossing, how do you get from the crossing down towards Agur Road? So I think someone mentioned before that the second phase work is a tunnel over. It's actually a overpass over Agur Road. So the very steep slope there now with the edge of the crossing in the air will have a large amount of fill so that it can make a more gentle slope and down towards Agur Road and get over Agur Road and then down to the edge of the creek that's right there on the opposite side on the south side of Agur Road. So yeah, that's the primary, that's more material than is actually on the bridge itself, right? So.
Thanks, Clark. This is anonymous, is asking, once completed, what is the anticipated risk, if any, to residents who live off Agora Road just north of Liberty Canyon? Again, there is no additional risk. There are, if you're talking, I'm assuming you're talking about the risk of mountain lions or wild, where mountain lions can be, they're already there. This crossing is not about bringing more mountain lions or wildlife. It is facilitating connectivity. Mountain lions are extremely territorial. They will often fight to the death over territory. So what this is just about sustaining a population into the future by facilitating that genetic exchange. But this is not about bringing more mountain lions to the area. So there is no, if you're living there, there are mountain lions there already. So there's no anticipated risk on that. Having said that, ongoing, and that's what Karina addressed, we are very committed to providing coexistence education and support for those who live in the community to how to live with the wildlife that's already there and that we are trying to sustain for the future. So please reach out to Karina. We do coexistence on mountain lions and how to coexist with predators on the landscape. So we do want to provide support around that. Let's see, is there any other questions I didn't get to? Peyton said he just joined. My AP Environmental Science teacher informed me about this. I'd like a quick recap. What is the purpose of the crossing? Actually, Peyton, I'd be happy to talk to you offline because we are getting on time, but about it, there is a social media account. You can either follow the Wallis Annenberg Facebook page or P22 Mountain Lion of Hollywood, or go to www.savelAcougars.org. Or the National Park Service, the Santa Monica Mountains has a site dedicated to their mountain lion and other research, which, since you're an AP student for environmental science, I think their Park Service research will be of great interest to you. And also, please feel free to reach out to me. I can connect you to the right people. This is exactly what we want, for those who, this is a landmark. It's never been attempted to this scale in an urban area. The National Park Service research is groundbreaking. The design around this wildlife crossing, though we have benefited from decades of science, some of the stuff like the light and sound barriers we need to do, nobody's tried on a crossing. In fact, I think Travis Longcore is here. If Travis, do you want to just pop up and say hi? Just for comparison, most of these wildlife crossings are in areas of roads that are rural. They get maybe 10,000 cars a day. We get 300 to 400,000 cars a day. So a lot of design that we have to do, others didn't, which is light and sound barriers. Travis, do you just want to talk about light for a second, which I find one of the more fascinating parts of what we have to mitigate for to make the animals get across the road?
Sure. And thanks for seeing me and asking me to say a few words. So the thing is, you were talking about how we get the wildlife to use the crossing. And one of the things we do know a bit about wildlife usage, especially species that are sensitive to human disturbance, is they're not too crazy about lights and they're not too crazy about noise. And so one of the things that the designers are doing, and we're trying to help them as best we can to achieve that, is to make a dark and quiet path over the freeway. So we've also been out there doing some baseline measurements. So if anybody who's local sees an old beat up Toyota pickup in the middle of the night alongside the road, don't worry, that's just me and maybe some students getting some measurements of what it looks like so we can see before and after. Because right now, if you go up on the hills and you look down at it as if you were any animal thinking about moving across the landscape at night, there's just this big swath of lights that goes across it. And so the design, the choice of doing an overpass, really smart that way. So it's going to create, and then this particular design of it has features, the lighting, and I just want to reinforce the fact that this is right at the cutting edge of what's going on with lighting management across the country. And things that I'm developing with them to sort of push it in particular directions here are going directly to national committees that are dealing with lighting and mitigating impacts on wildlife. So I appreciate being part of the team, and just remember, a quiet and dark path is going to get those animals across there the safest way possible.
Thanks, Travis. I find it immensely fascinating. It's great.
I love that as you came on the call, you dramatically shifted your lighting as well. That was lovely.
I live in the dark. Thank you.
Thank you, Travis.
Another question. Somebody did want, Karina was asking in the chat about, can you send or show a link to the volunteer program again? So maybe Karina or somebody, if you could put that in the chat for people if you want to sign up for docents or volunteers. Absolutely. Thank you. Question from 882187, whoever that is. I presume the plant life will be self-sustaining on the crossing, which is yes, but how is that ensured? is it just a very thick layer of dirt to allow them to support themselves and grow? Robert, did you want to take that one, or and people can
Sure.
others can comment with him?
Sure. You know, it's a fabulous question, and I think to any extent, any reassertion of landscape in any place takes a bit of maintenance and care and upkeep, and that is a big part of what MRCA will be doing as the project comes to fruition and as things start to grow on site. But one of the core components of this that we've really dove into, and Beth alluded to it earlier when she was referring to the collection of mushrooms, is that we're not just putting a bunch of dirt on top of the structure and then sticking plants into it. There's a very involved strategy by which that we are reasserting the biological processes, the nutrient cycling capacity of the soil as part of this effort. It's a commensurate relationship between the plant community and the soil environment. And that soil biology piece of this is critical to the success of the project. So as we're going through this, it's another layer of that design process, another layer of that construction process that we'll be going through. And as Rasmussen starts building this and starts to add that layer on top of the structure, there is another piece of that equation that's about cultivating that soil back and re-enlivening it as part of the project.
Thanks, Robert. So Sharon's asking about, will there be live cameras monitoring 24/7 once complete? Will it be broadcast to the public? And who or what departments will be monitoring these for the crossing? So Seth, I'm gonna pass to you in 1 second about the Park Service research and what you're doing and how you'll be monitoring going forward. I will say it is likely we will not, the construction camera right now is live 24/7 that the public has access. We will have a live camera on it once it's done, but for reasons that we don't want people rushing to the crossing if there is wildlife on it, there probably will be delays. We will be sharing, of course, all the wonderful wildlife that use it. And at some point, we're going to take a bet on which the first species is going to use it. But we will be sharing a lot of the footage from the cameras up, but probably won't be a live feed on the crossing accessible to the public itself. But Seth, do you want to talk about a lot of the monitoring? Obviously, that's just a continuation of your research that will be going on, and then once the crossing is complete.
Yeah, we're actually working on the post-construction monitoring plan right now together with lots of different partners from the Living Habitats crew and Tony Clevenger as that Beth mentioned that's worked on these in lots of different places. So we're going to be we've been doing pre-construction. Well, we've been doing research, as I mentioned at the beginning there, for 25 years, but we've been doing a bunch of work specifically to look at what's going on before the construction. So that's everything from monitoring the mountain lions and the bobcats to monitoring, using cameras to monitor areas near the crossing, and even to look at some of the other crossing points that are nearby, most of which are not getting much use, which we figured was the case. Although we have been seeing, so the areas that Clark mentioned, actually, where we're doing restoration along Liberty Canyon Road, that's been a great project, and we're starting to see a little bit of use there. And then we're monitoring all the way down to some of the smaller species like lizards and birds and small mammals to look at genetic effects. So are there genetic effects of the freeway all the way from mountain lions down to these smaller species? And then we're going to be able to compare that to after construction. But then in terms of, we're going to do a bunch of monitoring of the crossing itself for sure. So we will be using, it's really wide, so we can't monitor it quite the way we would monitor small culverts in various other connectivity projects with Caltrans that we've been doing. But we will be using both remote cameras and actually some new kinds of technology where there will be constant monitoring. So we're going to be doing a bunch of different things and monitoring things like light and sound, like Travis mentioned, and monitoring a whole range of different species, from birds to small mammals to reptiles to the carnivores. So, but as Beth said, yeah, we probably won't have live things going on that'll be available all the time, but we will be certainly sharing all kinds of stuff. And it certainly will be exciting when things start to use it, when the first species use it, and when the first mountain lions use it. And just going back a little bit to the question of how will we get them to use it? As Beth said, there's various ways that we can funnel animals to it, and it's already a natural funnel. And not every single animal is going to find the crossing and use it. But we also don't need every mountain lion to get across. Just a few mountain lions, especially from a genetic point of view, make a huge difference. So, but the animals are as Beth was saying too, they're very smart and they know what that landscape is like, and they're highly motivated to get to other places, especially like young male mountain lions, for example. And so we're very confident that they will find it.
I think a lot of people have seen, it's friends of mine, the coyote and the badger, right? I mean, when word gets out in the animal world, it really does get passed along much like people. Stacy put my money is on coyotes using it first. All right, Stacy, we'll see if you're right. We are, with our internal team, have been talking.
That's probably a pretty good bet, actually.
Yeah, it's probably a pretty safe bet. So, Lawrence asks, how do you keep people off the crossing? And that's one I can take as well. I've actually, and a lot of us have been doing a lot of research on this. You can't fence it off, because if you fence it off for people, then you're fencing it off for wildlife. But we actually have looked at what other crossings have done. Some handy tips, which I shouldn't give away the secrets, but I think this is a safe crowd. Plant poison oak. Put up signs that say rattlesnakes everywhere. But we are considering all tools in our toolbox for this. It may be initially some docents monitoring it 24/7, or security just to ensure while the crossing's stabilized, or it just could be that signage and slope and planting poison oak or something like that could work. But we are looking at a lot of options to ensure that this is primary for wildlife. Clark, this is for you from Monica. I want to ask Clark how the proposed LA City Wildlife Master Plan will fit together with this.
That's a pretty sophisticated, high-end question there. Yeah, so based on a lot of people on this call participate in a linkage implementation alliance group. And a few years ago, led by Andy Schrader and others from city council districts, started looking at connectivity. And we know that in addition to P22, there have been mountain lions in the eastern Santa Monicas, et cetera. But in addition to that, one of the reasons we have a large scale overcrossing, the Annenberg is an overpass as opposed to a tunnel or something else that was studied, is because it's about getting as many species as you can. So the city of LA is recognizing that there are different scales of you might call it reduced scale or micro connectivity that are possible that will address the needs of other really critical species of concern, indicator species, birds, even insects. And so there's a lot of potential. I mentioned the bowl, right? We're talking about the rim when we talk about mostly about rim of the valley and kind of large scale landscape mountain lion type habitat. But within the bottom of the bowl, city of LA, San Fernando Valley, LA River, its tributaries, and all of those places. And Travis has done some work on indicator species, even street trees, the kinds of things that will support bird life. So the city effort should be supported because it's basically taking the process that led to the connectivity within the Santa Monicas, and now with the crossing to ultimately Los Padres in the north, that can happen for other species and should happen within the city of Los Angeles as well. So it's really just a scaling down of the same idea for the benefit of different species, not just mountain lions.
Thank you, Clark. And let's see, Karina, were you answering George's question? I think you did. I was just about to ask George Coleman, one of our early volunteers, asked about ASL.
It's just so important for us to make sure that these tours are accessible to all people. And during the ticketing process, there'll be an option to request for special accommodation. And if we have enough lead time, we can absolutely set up an interpreter to be present during one of our tours. So that's a great question.
That's great. Peyton, Robert already touched on the plant life, but Robert, do you just want to give another quick overview for the plant life? It is not just targeted for mountain lions. As we said, this is, I really can't get across the specialness of this crossing. I can't find a precedent for it, but this is a living ecosystem mimicking, all the natural plants and vegetation you'd have. Wildlife will be living on it. That's what I think is so wonderful. Over one of the busiest freeways in the country, you're going to have fence lizards and birds and monarch butterflies actually living on it, as well as wildlife traveling over it. And to that point, Peggy Wu said she's betting for a western fence lizard first. So that's not a bad guess probably either. But Robert, can you just give again a really quick rundown about what kind of plant life is going to be provided for Peyton?
Sure, sure. And then, I mean, if you don't mind, I mean, I could also
Yeah,
add to
why
Shannon's
don't you go
question
right
there as
into
well.
Shannon's? And hi,
Sure.
Shannon. Go into right into Shannon's question. Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of the plant life that we're talking about, I mean, I touched on this a little bit previously, but I think the other piece of this that that kind of gets maybe lost a little bit in the thread is that a lot of the dialogue around the selection of the plants for the crossing itself is this ongoing dialogue that we're having with Seth and with Jeff about how we're creating the habitat areas, the open habitat, the closed habitat, those kind of marginal areas in between, and how species move through those areas. So as we're selecting the plants that have that are native and endemic of the area, it's also about how they're put together within the composition and the planting strategy, so that we're creating habitats that are analogous to how the wildlife will move through them. And to that end, to kind of extend this through to Shannon's question about the mushrooms and the fungi, I believe one of our team members, Efren Caceres, who's our team mycologist, is actually tuning in today as well. On our team, we've got a soil scientist, a soil biologist, and we've got Efren as our mycologist. And that's part of what I was speaking to before about the kind of reinvigoration of the soil profile and bringing back that nutrient cycling capacity, whether it's the bacteria, the fungi, or the microorganisms within the soil. What we've been doing is we've been collecting spores from ectomycorrhizal species. And then there are also VAM mycorrhizal species that we'll be collecting from as well. And so as we are collecting those, along with the soil biology cultivation at the nursery, we'll be preparing an inoculant that will then be distributed as part of the planting strategy on the project to supplement those components back into the soil, so that as those spores and those bacteria and those microorganisms come back into the soil, they're supporting that nutrient cycling capacity. You have that then reciprocity between the mycorrhizal network in the root system and the plant community that'll go along with it, that's serving this broader population of wildlife.
It's another again area I find so fascinating about this crossing, how how this is playing in, and the plant nursery actually propagating stuff really close to the site, so it matches it. Kim is asking, were there special tours available for elementary schools and school programs or speakers? Absolutely. We are always available. I am always make myself available for school talks. Obviously, for tours of the crossing, we'll be offering that. Courtney Sullivan, who's on our team, is an education person that works out of one of our offices. For P22 week, there's lots of activities and going on, and online things you can download. And we're also in the midst of developing some curriculum resources now that the crossing's underway that you can use in your schools. But if you'd like either a virtual or in-person talk at your school, or if you want to be on the list for when we do start offering school tours at the crossing site, please contact Karina and she can get you on the list. And we always want to encourage the youth and get them interested in this incredible science, engineering, you name it, type project right in their backyard. Here's a good one. How will the animals be prevented from jumping onto the freeway? Some animals can jump really high. Seth and Robert, or anybody want to? We did think of that. We did not want animals, jumping onto the cars.
I'll just start really briefly, and then Seth. I mean, obviously, this is more your expertise than mine, but I will say that this is very much a part of the design dialogue. It's part of the conversation around the exclusionary fencing and the strategy in which we've deployed this as part of the design, specifically so we are funneling wildlife through and not designing to allow them to have that opportunity. We're doing our best to prevent that from being an issue. But Seth, do you want to speak to some of the conversations we've had around that?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So the short answer is we have to make very tall fences because animals like mountain lions can jump very high. Yeah. So we're planning to have 10 feet high plus an overhang actually. And then also we have an issue with if you don't want animals to go under the fence and get on the road that way. And so, there's different things, as Robert and his folks have been doing lots of great design work. And so in different places, there'll be slightly different things, but absolutely we need tall fences in many places, in particular against the freeway. One thing that we've really been pushing with lots of projects with Caltrans actually is you really need the fencing right up against the freeway so that there's no natural habitat between the fence and the freeway that animals are attracted to. So that's one thing we've really been working on as well. And that will help. If there's no incentive, there's no area the animals want to get to that's between the fence and the road, that will help. But yes, we absolutely are going to have to put tall fences to keep, especially things like mountain lions, from getting over them.
Seth, another question for you from Sally. Are you going to allow MBU to assist in monitoring people activity at the crossing?
I mean, that's I don't know. That's a good question. That would be more for other, for other park folks. But I mean, so that's the mountain bike unit, and they're awesome. They do tons of great work, just being out there and interacting with people. And so, yeah, that would be a great idea. It's not something we've figured out specifically, but I think it would be great to have them involved. And there are trails nearby on both sides. And so that would be an awesome opportunity to get all kinds of folks, including the mountain bike unit, involved with that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we'll put it on the list for engagement.
Yeah,
we are, I know, over. So I think, Karina, we should wrap up, obviously. But I do want to call one more person. I don't want to put Fran on the spot, but somebody who's also been just so core for this effort in many ways over decades. Fran, did you just want to say a few words? I think you're still here, and then we can wrap up. Is Fran still here? There she is. Can you unmute yourself, Fran?
Just did.
There we go. Okay.
They knew they should keep me muted. Yeah. No. You. Oops. We'll try this again. Local school groups want a tour, I may be available. I was curious if that was Kathy Prater's class at Agora High.
Kathy, if you can comment in the chat if that's you, Fran would like to know. Fran, we're getting some feedback, but I'll just, again, Fran's just been instrumental since the beginning. I was putting together, and there will be on the site a wildlife crossing FAQ as well that complements the coexistence, and just learning and documenting some of the history that that Fran and Rory and so many of you were involved in, even back to just preserving the land so that we could build this crossing. I really just have to commend the foresight of folks like Fran and Rory in the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy. Back then, we're talking about wildlife corridors before anybody really was in the sort of national paradigm. So we wouldn't be able to have a crossing either if it wasn't for the Park Service research, but also for the foresight of all of you who protected that land. So thank you so much. Fran, that was actually Kim Bobs from another school, but I'm sure we can do a presentation as well. So Karina, I'm gonna let you wrap it up, but I just wanna thank all of you for making this landmark crossing a reality. It's just amazing that it's underway. Stay tuned to that construction camera so you can see it unfold and see the work going underway. But thanks for supporting this vision. And again, it all comes down to ensuring a future for the mountain lions and all wildlife in the Santa Monica Mountains. And we've done that, and keep up those bets for what wildlife's going to use it first. But Karina, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you everybody so much for attending today's virtual open house. We look forward to potentially seeing you all next month. If everybody wants to save the date for October 16th, we're going to have an in-person open house in Agora Hills, and we'll have some free food and refreshments for the community to come out. We'll have representatives from each agency so that you can come to the event and ask questions and get your answers. And we look forward to potentially seeing you at P22 Day that Beth talked about. You can go to urbanwildlifeweek.org for a full list of those events in October. But with that, I hope everyone has a great rest of your evening, and perhaps we'll see you in person next month. Take care.